Welcome to the show. Another edition of the Shatter the Script podcast, recording every Monday, releasing every Tuesday. That way we can get a better headline of topics. But we are back for week 9 for NFL, week 11 for, we're week 10 for NFL, week 11 for college football. It is so hard to having college football a week before and the NFL a week after. But anyway, here we are. If you're a first-time listener, we appreciate you joining in. You can follow us at Shatter the Script at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Subscribe and follow on there. We'll have episodes, at least 3 per week. And then you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter by searching at Shatter the Script. And you'll find us on all platforms. It is the golden arched logo that looks angelic. But yeah, we got a lot of topics in store for you guys today. It should be a much more crowded episode than last week. But and before I start, I'm going to throw in my world famous Lucy nicotine, not sponsored by, but looking to be. Before we get in, sorry, Mom, you already know that I do this, but let's get started. Look, I was out hunting the whole weekend. Essentially, I was able to keep track of some NFL stuff. I had to go do some serious search and destroy on Saturday to find out what happened, in college football. How can I catch up to the magic? It's tough being all the way. I mean, I hunt down there in South Texas, and if you are a hunter, shout out to you, because it's time. I mean, it is hot as fire in Texas, but being down there in South, close to the border, it's a lot of fun. Even though, because right now it's like, if you're not unfamiliar with hunting, this is not part of the rut right now. Like, the rut happens in December, January-ish for South Texas. So down there, I mean, I probably saw 40 billion doe. Absolutely zero bucks. I saw more extraterrestrial, as you would call it, animals out there than I saw, things that you're supposed to, pick up your rifle for. So, always a fun time. If you're a hunter, send me pictures of what you bagged this season, and make a clean shot, because we don't want them to suffer. All right, well, let's get into it. So I'm actually going to start things off with the 12th man segment this week and do my top 12 teams. And then, of course, do my TLC reference guys almost in, kind of the first 4 out, essentially, is what they are. And then I will go straight into my Shatter the Script topics. And so this one, yes, it does include the Dallas Cowboys. I'll be leading off with them. And I think it's because I understand they seem to take up the headlines all the time. But this is a transition period to where some things happened within the Atlanta game to where you can start possibly looking to the future. And now I'm not going to throw a tantrum at you like I did 2 weeks ago, talking about Jerry Jones and whatnot. No, this is just an actual articulate, accurate direction that I would go if I was the GM for the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, without all the technicalities of finances and draft capital, but this is the direction I think the Dallas Cowboys should follow if they want to return to being Super Bowl contenders. And then the next one is the return of the quarterback epidemic. This is going to include Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams. I will do a quick shout out for Bryce Young. He was able to game manage and win for the Carolina Panthers after really suffocating a mentally brutal, bench on a bad team. It's just the morale that you wouldn't be able to recover from that. For him to go out there and actually game manage and come back and win that game, it was awesome for Bryce Young. So quick shout out to him, which transitioned me into Dennis Allen for the Saints getting fired. So that will happen in the third part of the Shatter the Script segment. And then last but not least, I'll finish with a little bit of college football, just kind of a headline of what has happened and what is going to happen this upcoming weekend. All right, well, so let's get into it. Let's go ahead and toss the power rankings up there for you guys. Our top 12. That was a quick little 5-minute intro for you guys. So let's get this going here. We go window to the wall. All right. The 12th men segment. Now, here's a fun one. And there's some quick changes in here. And last week, I will apologize. I think I went a little out of order. I think starting from the top is an accurate thing to do. But if you do remember last week, the top 3 is basically the same. I did a little switcheroo with Georgia and Oregon, but it remains the same. Oregon with an impressive win over Michigan, Georgia with a sloppy win over Florida in kind of a geographical rivalry game, and Ohio State going into Penn State with an impressive win, 20-13, regardless of the struggles on offense that they had. Or I guess you could say not the struggles, the mishaps, like the touchback near the end zone from Will Howard, for instance. Texas had a bye week. They're going to stay there. They got a good game. They're back on the schedule this week. If they win out, they're most likely in the SEC championship. They got that big game with Texas A&M at the end of the year. So that's my top 4 is basically the same. Let's go to number 12 now. Now, yes, LSU is ranked number 12. They actually snuck in to my rankings. Alabama was 12 last week, but I think with how things have shaken up, Clemson kind of getting bodied, Texas A&M losing. You have Penn State taking the L to Ohio State, kind of proving who I thought they were this whole time. LSU has yet to do what A&M just did this week. And I understand A&M, I put them just ahead of LSU. But LSU's worst loss is USC. Texas A&M's worst loss now is technically South Carolina. Now, I just think LSU is built to be a top 12 team eventually. And when you look at these other teams that are like my first 4 out that we're going to get to here in a little bit, I think LSU would whoop their ass. That's just my personal opinion. Do I think they're going to make the college football playoff? I don't, because I got a big game against Alabama this week. I think Alabama is one of the most tough teams to beat when Jalen Milroe is on. When Jalen Milroe plays to his capability and his throwing is on, he's accurate, he's composed in the pocket, he doesn't do that Jalen Hurts scramble to the right and throw it away type thing. I think Alabama is one of the toughest teams in the nation to beat. And you can argue with your closet door whether or not I'm right or wrong about that. Good thing for you is just my personal opinion. So LSU creeps their way in there. Texas A&M drops from number 9 on my rankings to number 11. I still think they're going to beat Auburn and beat New Mexico State and have somewhat of a chance to compete with Texas at the end of the year, depending on who's going to play quarterback for Texas A&M, essentially, honestly, and how they're going to play and whether or not Ewers struggles. It's just a toss-up. It's a rivalry game. But if they win that game, Texas A&M could return to the SEC championship, I believe. I don't know. That's going to shake out in a very weird way. But it's not going to shake out the way that I thought it was going to shake out 3 or 4 weeks ago when I said they have a chance. There's a potential for there to be a Texas versus Texas A&M SEC championship game. I think the most likely scenario you'll receive is Texas versus Georgia, a repeat game in the SEC championship, and possibly a third freaking matchup between the two. That's just the way things shook out. Now, if Alabama actually clutched up, in those against Vanderbilt and against Tennessee, they would 100% be in it. They would be no doubtably the number 1 team in the nation, but they've had their issues with quarterback play. But I'm assuming Alabama is at their best this weekend versus LSU. I'm actually going to take Alabama to beat LSU, and that'll kind of boot LSU back out, and they may return at the end of the year. But as I told you guys before last week when we revisited my 12th men, is that 10, 11, and 12 are just going to change every single week. Every single week they're going to change. So don't look at that and go, oh my God, he thinks they're top 12. No, yes, but eventually it's just going to change. So your top 8 teams, I think, are those that are most noteworthy. So Notre Dame with the bye, we're going to skip over them. Notre Dame has won out since their horrible loss versus Northern Illinois, but they've won out. Their defense is what should scare other teams. Now, their offense is honestly, I think, is atrocious compared to other teams, but keep an eye out for them. They're probably going to keep winning because they play nobody. The same thing for Miami. Miami is just, they were on upset alert versus Duke. I called it. I said they're going to be on upset alert. To my buddies off record, I've been talking about it all year. You guys know I've been a vocal criticizer of Miami, but they just happened to explode late in the second half and defeat Duke 53-31. But they were losing for quite a bit, and it was kind of a scare tactic. Once again, Miami can't continue to survive in these shootouts, especially when you go into an SEC environment or a team like Ohio State or Oregon. Oregon might be the best matchup Miami could possibly pick up in a quarterfinal game or a semifinal game in the college football playoffs if they end up making it. Because that's the one team, in my opinion, that you can get into a shootout and survive. That's just like your favorable shootout matchup. Because Oregon can put up 50, Miami can put up 50. Their defense can't prevent the other great team from putting up 30 plus, essentially. Indiana Jones, baby, number 6, rising up, I believe, 4 spots moving from 10th in my rankings to number 6. Indiana is in there. Tennessee right in front of them. Now, Indiana, I kind of listened to some other guys talking about this, but Indiana is just, their margin of victory is what speaks out the most. Is the best thing about Indiana this season is their margin of victory. Now, they've played some top opponents in terms of who we thought Indiana was as the season progressed. Like, okay, Indiana, big win. Okay, Indiana, big win. Okay, over and over and over again. And so, this week, I can't remember who they're playing this upcoming weekend, but I think their best win, Nebraska, that's not the easiest team to go into Nebraska and win. And then they had College Game Day next week with their backup quarterback, and they whip Washington's tail. Washington comes out this week, and I believe upsets or beats somebody. I think might have been USC. So Indiana, man, they've been impressive, and I know they haven't had the toughest of schedule. And I understand that you're going to go back and go, well, he's kind of hypocritical with these rankings. But man, I think Indiana would have a chance to beat a team like Penn State, Notre Dame, and Miami. I think they could play with Ohio State, they had their starting quarterback, and I definitely think they can play with Oregon. That's just kind of my short, brief outlook on Indiana. And then number 5, Tennessee. Their defense is hella strong. I mean, their defense is SEC ready. Their head coach is, like I've mentioned, I think top 3 in the SEC. They just have a freshman quarterback. They're a lot like Texas A&M. They won a big game. I just think that I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but his first name, Nico, their quarterback, is, if he can figure out a rhythm and a formula to win as a freshman and kind of game manage his way through the rest of the season, especially as things get tighter and things get more important, I think Tennessee is fabulous for the college football playoff. So that is my 12th men segment. Let's get into my first 4 out, my TLC referenced, don't go chasing waterfalls, ain't too proud to beg, creep, and I don't want no scrubs. So last week, ain't too proud to beg was Ohio State. Don't go chasing waterfalls was Ole Miss. Got a creep was Boise. And I don't want no scrubs was BYU. This week it's going to change a little bit. Ain't too proud to beg. Clemson. Clemson lost to Louisville 33-21. Now this one was just a showcase, in my opinion, of Dabo Swinney being a level 3 idiot. And yes, they didn't score enough points, obviously, to win this game. But there was a point in time where he should have gone for 2 to make it, I believe it was a 10-point game, so a touchdown and field goal could win it. And he just kicked the field goal. And I think his own team was confused as to why, he was doing that. So I'm going to get this 12th-man thing out of the way here. There we go. Return back to HQ. Okay, yeah, back to Clemson. Louisville is not a team to sleep on. I think they're an above average team. They're honestly a lot like they're a lot like the SEC South Carolina. But Louisville upset Clemson in this one, and just a lot of coaching mistakes from Dabo Swinney. They're my ain't too proud to beg. So they can win more games and see if they can sneak back in, maybe find a way to be in the ACC championship. I just think this was a goofy loss from them. This is something that really should not have happened. A dud for Clemson. As college football is going on, you're seeing a lot more teams like suddenly drop games that they shouldn't. Like, just historically, I think every game mattered so much more that you wouldn't see as many duds like this in the past. And that's just like my brief memorization of the past couple of years. So don't go chasing waterfalls. That one is going to be Ohio State. You lost to Texas Tech. If Texas Tech holds you to 22 points, and no disrespect to Texas Tech, but we all know what Texas Tech is. It is we're going to try and score more points than you, but we have to score 60 in order to do so. And you hold undefeated Iowa State to 22 points. That is, to me, it's unacceptable. And I understand Iowa State hasn't had the toughest of schedules, but this one is just another goofy loss to me. It's Texas Tech. They just had an embarrassing loss last week to TCU, missing some extra points and a field goal or so after your dude flashing a shirt. I just think you had a chance to really shock the world, and you drop one to Texas Tech. Again, no disrespect, but don't go chasing waterfalls. And they got a creep. Now, this one doesn't categorize as first four out in terms of my 12th men, but it categorizes as first four out in real life. And Texas A&M is in that category. Now, this was my concern going into the South Carolina game. A night game away in South Carolina facing a team that realistically should be 6-2. They were robbed of a win over LSU with a favorable roughing the passer call on a pick six or an interception. I can't remember if it was a pick six or interception. But they should have won versus LSU. The college atrocious officiating got the better of them. But Texas A&M goes over there. My concern was that Marcel Reed came into the LSU game, and I admit I overreacted. I think it was a super hype that A&M actually beat a team that they technically weren't supposed to beat. Like, historically, they're not winning that game. And I was nervous going into it. But Marcel Reed comes in the second half where you didn't plan for a dual threat quarterback. You planned for Connor Wegman, who's extremely immobile, kind of a passer, and he just completely collapsed. And in this game, you're basically, game planning for South Carolina's quarterback, Sellers. So there really wasn't a challenge here. It's like, yeah, it's going to be a lot tougher to get the job done here when you get to game plan for Marcel Reed, a freshman quarterback who has historically throughout the year, as I mentioned, doesn't have the passing capability that Wegman showed on his 4-game stretch. It's just a conundrum of a quarterback room situation for Texas A&M. Once again, you have one that can run and one that can sometimes throw. So Texas A&M, this was actually a very close game. The score does not indicate how this game really went. And South Carolina was ahead for the majority of the game as Texas A&M was clawing back to make it, 27-30. An interception from Marcel Reed and a really odd throw just outside of the red zone is what really killed the momentum. And from there, it was touchdown and then touchdown to seal it, and then fumble from A&M and then touchdown to seal it. So just like that, I mean, it's like when you're playing I'll give it a Rocket League reference. You're like, oh, we're up 2-0, and then there's a serve goal, and then there's another goal because you forgot to rotate, and then there's another goal. And you're like, damn, 3-2 now. What the hell? They just scored 3 goals in 10 seconds. Sorry for the Rocket League reference, but so got to creep. You got to win your next game versus Auburn and your next game versus New Mexico State, and you have to clutch against Texas at the end of the year to reach chances for an SEC championship and a college football playoff appearance. And then I don't want no scrubs. It's still BYU. They had a bye week this week. I really was looking at the rest of the teams and I was like, I don't think BYU can compete with the rest of the teams that are going to be in the college football playoff unless they were a higher ranked seed, a low ranked seed versus a low ranked seed. Their best bet is to have the 9th seed and play the 8th seed, or vice versa, in my opinion. I think BYU, you look at their schedule, the rest of the remaining schedule as well, and you're like, okay, you're going to go undefeated, and if you don't, well, then it's embarrassing. At worst, probably 11-1 for BYU is what you're looking at. Okay, well, that wraps up the 12th Men and Ain't Too Proud to Beg segment. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. And now we will move into our official Shatter the Script segments. So 20 minutes for the first one. I like that. Kind of an extended period of time. Let's get right into it. So the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys moved to 3-5 after dropping a game in Atlanta. Kirk Cousins dicing up the Dallas Cowboys' pitiful defense. Dak Prescott was kind of good, honestly, throughout the most of this game. Rico Dowdle rushed the ball really well. Every time he gets an extended role in this offense, he tends to do well. Dak Prescott had a very, very, very Romo-like impressive touchdown play near the goal line, kind of giving his everything for the team. And I think that's appreciative if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. However, Dak is set to miss multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. We saw it. He believes he tweaked it on the Cowboys' first 15-plus rush on the season from Dak Prescott, a 22-yard run, which I was dying laughing. I was like, is Dak Prescott the Cowboys' best running back? Question mark, eye emojis. So congratulations to Dak Prescott for having the only 15-plus yard run, which was funny because the play right after that, Rico Dowdle rushed for 16 yards to the 2-yard line, and then following that, Rico Dowdle caught the touchdown, right? And then CeeDee Lamb with an AC joint sprain, shoulder injury. So the Dak Prescott injury is kind of where we're going to start in terms of what to do. He's set to miss multiple weeks. We don't know how it's a serious hamstring injury, and if you are familiar with hamstring injuries, they just linger. And for a 31-year-old quarterback and a team that's 3-5, and there's really no sign of hope for this team, I think the smart thing to do would to just be putting Dak Prescott on the injured reserve for the rest of the season. And it's I wouldn't define it as quitting, but there's no sense in playing this quarterback under these conditions. There really isn't. And I think it opens the door for an opportunity to play Trey Lance, the North Dakota State alumni, drafted first round from the 49ers. I think, again, we'll go back and say that this was one of the dumbest trades that spontaneous, screw it trades that I've ever seen Jerry Jones do. We gave up good draft capital for a guy that's been our emergency quarterback behind Cooper Rush. And I would argue this about Cooper Rush. It boggles my mind that people go, here comes the Cooper Rush agenda. He's 5-1 as a starter and whatnot. And what's funny is, as Cooper Rush is going to play in Dak's place, most likely, the injured players are going to start to come back. And then the defense is going to play better. And you're going to see statistics going, since Cooper Rush has played quarterback, the defense has allowed only 19 points per game or whatever, and they're 3-2 or whatever. And you're going to say, here we go again. Cooper Rush is winning with this roster, and Dak Prescott is not, and Dak Prescott is terrible. And you're going to look and you're going to go, well, the defense is playing a lot better. It's because they were healthy. They got healthy. And if you look at their schedule, the back half of their schedule is not the gauntlet that they're in currently. So let's not be nonsensical here. Let's not be irrational here, but just be prepared for that agenda for Cooper Rush if he's the guy. But in my opinion, why not roll with Trey Lance? There is no upside with Cooper Rush. What is his career's upside moving forward? I mean, beyond knowing the system that Dallas has ran with Mike McCarthy, what upside does he bring you? Why not roll with a guy like Trey Lance and implement, a college-style RPO offense? Why not? and maybe gain some draft capital for Trey Lance to trade him off to another team at the end of the year or in the offseason or whenever, and get a fifth or a sixth back or a sixth or some picks, because obviously long term, Dak's probably got 6 to 7, no, maybe 5 to 6 years maximum left of playing time in the NFL. So are you going to sit Trey Lance for 5 to 6 years? No, it just makes no sense. So if Dak goes to the IR like I'm mentioning, and I'm starting Trey Lance, and then I would become immediate sellers and trade for draft capital with other players on the roster. 100%. This team is not going anywhere with the tools that they have. Parsons is coming back. He will need to pass a physical, I'm assuming, in order to be traded. But people are going to go, why would you trade Parsons? He's one of your best players. Parsons does not show up in big games. That's my Shatter the Script segment. I don't think it would kill you to trade him. I think it would actually benefit you to trade him, because you see other teams trade these big-time players, and then they go into the draft and they go, wow, this team, the Rams, they got Verse, at edge, and he's really playing well. You got, oh man, Lions, Aiden Hutchinson. Oh my God, these draft picks are becoming. And here's why my suggestion for doing that, because Dak and Lamb, excuse me again, Dak and Lamb are taking up like 40% of your damn salary cap. So you have to go to the draft in order to assemble a better team moving forward. You have to have that 3 to 4 year gap of like they're on their rookie contracts, but you're playing them when they're young, they're fresh, they're healthy, and they're energetic, and they're hungry for a Super Bowl. That's the new window pane that you have to look through the lens of. So some key guys to sell if you're becoming valuable sellers in Dallas. Micah Parsons, number one. Now, again, he has to pass the physical, most likely. DeMarcus Lawrence is another one. Same situation with him. Those two guys, you can absolutely deal one or the other. DeMarcus Lawrence, his contract is expiring. He's a veteran. He deserves to go win somewhere. That's kind of the outlet. It's not like it's a business. You got to look at it as a business. It's not like I don't like those players. It's more like they've been treated wrong. As I mentioned, 2 or 3 weeks ago, talking about how Jerry Jones has diminished all these careers. Like, get rid of these guys and go get really good draft capital for them. You could probably get a fourth, for DeMarcus Lawrence. You could probably get a first and a second for Parsons, which could be instrumental for a quarterback that's been paid $60 million, a receiver that's been paid $34 million, and you don't have to pay Parsons next year. So that is a relief off of your shoulders. And then they're not going to do this, by the way. Trayvon Diggs is another guy. You could trade Trayvon Diggs. He's one of your healthier guys, but you also have a young Darren Bland, and you have a Kalen Carson, in your secondary with the veteran Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis could be a trade candidate, a slot cornerback, but honestly, in a contract year for him, paying him is probably not going to be very expensive. And he actually, I'm a steal from this is the medical guy's words. He's one of those guys that understands the mission. I honestly I think Jordan Lewis has been our better performing player on the defense throughout this whole season. And he's got a loud mouth, I get it. But I think that's one of the guys you actually wind up keeping. And the one that would break my heart, but you could really get some good draft capital for him, and he deserves the world, is Zach Martin. That's another guy that if you're going to become major sellers at the deadline, those are my target guys to trade. And some other guys you can list are like Malik Hooker, but I'd be cutting Zeke, I'd be cutting Dalvin Cook. I mean, why continue with this circus of players? Maybe not Dalvin Cook, but it just the disciplinary actions with Zeke. It's nonsense. It's he's not a scapegoat. It's just, dude, I'm sorry we ruined your career. You're washed. There's no sense in us having you on the roster. So. And then I would fire Mike McCarthy. The statistics of him, the amount of slant routes, hitch routes, and comeback routes that we run, you would look at the statistics and go, are you serious? But the crossers and pre-snap motion have just completely disappeared. For this team to be top 10, top 5 in almost every category the past 3 seasons, to go from bottom 20 in almost everything and not top 10 in a single thing is astronomically bad. And that's a coaching issue. It really is. And yes, it could be an injury and a roster issue as well. But game management, it's just there. What does Mike McCarthy do for you? Really? I mean, what does he do for you? He's not historically a problem, but he's a fossil. And so is Mike Zimmer. They're fossil coaches. Go out there and, for the love of my Lord and Savior and God Almighty, go get a new, young, modern coach that excels at offensive coordinating. It is working everywhere. It is working. Why not do that? Why not go pay the best money you can buy for one of the best up-and-coming coaches? And you all probably got one, if you're an NFL fan, got one name in mind in Detroit that you would love to get. I don't think he's leaving Detroit, but Ben Johnson would be a phenomenal fit for Dallas. And please, for the love of all things, please do not go get Kellen Moore in Philadelphia. But that is the type of shit Cowboys should do. That's my plan. Put Dak on IR the rest of the season. I think Lamb can come back and play. He's a grinder. Let him play. Give Trey Lance somebody to throw to. Become sellers at the deadline. Get rid of some key guys to get that payroll kind of become manageable in the salary cap. Fire MM. Promote Mike Zimmer to head coach. And at the end of the year, fire Mike Zimmer and then go from there. And then in the draft, these are your draft needs in order if you're Dallas. Number one on this list is a defensive interior. Now, that doesn't mean you should draft him in the first round, but defensive interior needs to be the priority. Get yourself a good one. It may be two. In rounds two and three, maybe four, possibly another one in the latter half of the draft if you see some potential. Defensive interior, absolutely number one, because Mozzie Smith is not working out. He's just not. Go get an absolute run stuffer, a 350-pound motherfuck. And then we need some edge depth. Yes, Nealand and Sam Williams, the edge players for Dallas, are both hurt. If you traded Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence or both, you would definitely need to go get some edge players for depth, and that's who I would get in round one. Get the best edge player available in the first round. And if there's not any good ones, I'll come back to that in a second with my last one on this list. Wide receiver is the third. I think you can get this guy in rounds 2 through 4. It's just after that first round, start looking. The best available for when your draft pick comes up. It's like, it doesn't make sense in round 2. Let's go for round 3 and get a versatile, deep threat, route running capable guy. A perfect guy for this offense could be a Khalil Shakur. Somebody that can go in and out of the slot and be a role player. That would be instrumental for a player like Dak Prescott or whoever else it could have been. But just somebody who can be a complete hybrid, flexible player out in at wideout. And then last on this list is a right tackle. Terrence Steele has been struggling all year. He could be a trade candidate as well. But in rounds 1 through 4, I'd be looking for a solid right tackle. And I say round 1 because a lot of times you'll see really good tackles picked between, the 5th overall pick to the 20th. Like somewhere in there, we're probably going to be within that range. Grab a tackle and make sure it's a good one. And maybe with the draft capital, if you traded Parsons, you have a second first-round pick this year, and that's when you get your edge player. 2 problems solved in 1 round. That is my solution for the Dallas Cowboys. And I told you I wasn't going to go all crazy talking, with the tantrum with Jerry Jones, but that's just something that if I was the GM, I would make those steps with how this year's going. I mean, you can't expect Dallas with 150 billion% less talent to make 125 trillion more success. It just doesn't make any sense at all. It's nonsense. It's insanity is what it is. All right, next on this list, the return of the epidemic. Yes. So if you've been paying attention to the NFL, you have probably seen that Anthony Richardson has been benched by the Indianapolis Colts. I mentioned this last week, but I didn't really get into it. But he is now benched reportedly for the remainder of the NFL season of 2024 to be replaced by a 40-year-old quarterback, Joe Flacco. And if you've been watching the Colts football, they tend to throw the ball a lot better when Joe Flacco comes in. I think that's what they're focused on. But one thing that I totally forgot to mention last week, which is why I wanted to kind of tackle it again, and I think it's one of the bigger stories in the NFL because it aligns with my QB epidemic agenda, is that when Anthony Richardson came into the league, the medical guy had talked about this a little bit on Stats and Scars. If you tuned in, if not, welcome to the show. Is that I think he started less than 20 games entering his second year of the NFL, and that includes college and high school and the NFL. That is how many games that he started, less than 20. And then the Analyst brought up a great statistic in the Stats and Scars episode last week. He ranks 225th in like quarterbacks with 250 plus dropbacks and like quarterback efficiency, summed up for that stat, which is the guy beneath him, ranked higher than him, is Tim Tebow. So he's throwing the ball worse than Tim Tebow, which, guys, if you're as talented physically as Anthony Richardson is and promised to be, it's a huge letdown to be throwing, 44% on the year. I mean, almost every game was like 10 completions and 32 attempts. It's just atrocious. I mean, you look at like Michael Pittman getting like one catch for 9 targets. Josh Downs, when he's had Flacco in there, their slot receiver, has been a force to be reckoned with, a very talented hybrid slot player. Kind of my comp to him would be a little bit like, Chris Olave, but I could be wrong. It bothers me. It's a part of that quarterback epidemic where they literally cannot read a defense. There is no development anywhere. They just commit to a team, to a program, and the program in college does not develop them. And they're leaving, 2 years into school to go to the NFL after they've had maybe some incredible throws. It's like a highlight reel tape, like some 7-on-7 type shit. And back in the day, like when you had like Tom Brady playing, when Tom Brady played, he played 5 years at Michigan and then went to the draft. And what's interesting about that is that he talks about how this school developed him as a quarterback, reading defenses, creating checks to the line, memorizing concepts, coverages, the whole thing. But the reason for that is, in college football, and really needs to focus on bringing this back, is having a scheme that you're committing to, not a program. So, okay, their playing style is the spread. Okay, well, if you're a scrambling quarterback, you're committing to a spread offense, right? A Lane Kiffin, a Lincoln Riley, that kind of thing. Or if you're a field general type quarterback, you're tall, you got some size to you, and you don't have a lot of speed, and you're more about accuracy, placement, and arm strength, and you want to go to a pro-style offense, which is one of the most successful ways to play quarterback in the NFL, you commit to a school like that. And don't leave after 2 years. Play, which is why I've been learn, and continue to get college reps. And now that you're getting paid to be a college athlete, I don't see what the issue is in staying. And hopefully this trend ends now that the NIL has kind of offered pay for play type incentives, and hopefully a salary cap is implemented for these college programs. But that's why I've continued to praise, an Arch Manning type approach. And I think that has been the main problem of the quarterback epidemic. And like I mentioned, only playing less than 20 games for Anthony Richardson, that's not good. And that would translate into an NFL scouting issue, a drafting issue. It makes no sense. Think of the last 4 quarterback classes. And I might be going too far back, but there was one with Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and all of those quarterbacks are atrocious. Not one has panned out. And then this year, you're looking at, kind of transitioning me into my next one. Before I move on to this next one, I do want to mention that Anthony Richardson said on a podcast that the NFL is actually a lot easier than college. That is the stupidest thing you could possibly say as a rookie NFL quarterback. I know he's not a rookie this year, but technically he only played like 3 games last year. He's still classified as a rookie. He still hasn't played a full freaking season in the NFL. That is so beyond me to say. That's like showing up for your first day at work and going, give me the CFO role. I know everything about this company. This is a lot easier than serving tables. You got to be kidding me. What are you talking about, bro? Yeah. Nonsense. Stupid is what that statement was. And yes, if Anthony Richardson was sitting right here, he would whoop my freaking ass, but at least I would have gotten the words out, like, hey, you said this is stupid, like I just mentioned on the show. So, it's unbelievable to me, and it's a huge implementation of the quarterback epidemic that I've been preaching about. And that transitions me into the other version of the quarterback epidemic is Caleb Williams. Now, I need to find I'll find this video for you guys as I'm looking around, but this is kind of getting media attention because a certain wide receiver like quit on the play. But Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears, I talked about it a couple weeks ago. He was actually my 2020 Vision Quarterback of the Week. And since then, he has diabolically digressed the last 2 weeks, playing not the strongest defenses. He played Washington and Arizona. And Washington's defense, a lot like Dan Quinn was in Dallas, when they play good teams, they don't play good defense. But when they play average to below average teams, they're kicking your ass. So Williams did what he needed to do to win that game against Washington late. Not the entire game, but late. And I was like, okay, good drive from Caleb Williams there. A little spark to him. He's got a little spark to him a little bit. And then this week, you're going to play Arizona and you lose 9-29, and another atrocious performance. But, here's what stood out to me in this game. And I'll pull up the video here. And it has to do with DJ Moore as well. And this is getting media headlines. So as you can see, it's 2nd and 6 here. First quarter, right? 2nd and 6, ball at plus territory. This is, in this scenario, you're looking to gain positive yardage in some type of way, right? You're not looking to knock the block off with some 80 billion yard throw. This, especially as a rookie quarterback, just run the system, whatever it is. Hit the check down, throw the ball away, make it 3rd and 6. But just watch what he does on this play. And then you're going to say, like, I want to, you react yourself when you watch this play and you drive your own opinions. And then I will come back and show you guys and talk to you guys what I mean. So let's play this sucker.
Wants to know what they need from him. Play clock winding down. They get the snap off. Williams trying to line up a receiver, and Williams gets away off the spin move. Williams is still alive. This feels like Jaden Daniels last week. Williams guns it. Incomplete, looking for Keenan Allen.
Okay. So, scrambling around everywhere. I'm going to play this on loop. Scrambling around everywhere. He's sitting there in the pocket, and he's looking. All the receivers, if you look on the left side, all the receivers are flowing to him, and you see number 2 at the side of the screen right there, right? See him, number 2? That's DJ Moore walking off the field in the middle of the play. So, they'll come back again. Drops back, sets his feet, looking around, got a guy over the middle, ignores him, another guy in the flat, Cole Kmet, ignores him. They all move towards the quarterback. He's sitting there, still looking, still hasn't thrown the damn ball away, and then sits in the pocket after rotating a 3rd time and starts looking around, and DJ Moore's like, fuck that. I just got open for you 4 times, and what are you doing? It's 2nd and 6. So DJ Moore walks off the field, and this is what's getting headlines. And then you scramble all the way to the right side. Look at the offensive lineman over here. just gassed. It's the first quarter, remember. 2nd and 6. Just gassed. Running all over the damn field trying to protect you on a 2nd and 6. And this is the throw he delivered. Dirt ball, incomplete, 3rd and 6. So, all that to say, this is the quarterback, Epidemic. There is no sense of awareness. That's so cool. Like, non-ball numbers look at that and they go, oh my God, like Caleb Williams can scramble over the place. Look at his escapability. Holy smokes. It's only cool if it's effective. I mean, what's the guy? He's another quarterback that did that in the Tony Romo broadcast. Bo Nix. Bo Nix did this exact same thing for Denver against the Ravens, running around 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage and comes back around and throws a dirt ball behind the line of scrimmage for an incomplete pass. And Tony Romo's like, man, that's one of those plays where you just blow the whistle. That's coming from Romo. The guy that used to, his escapability was popular, but he actually made something happen with it. That's the difference between spunk and a quarterback epidemic. So when Caleb Williams on 2nd and 6 in the first quarter in plus territory, where you can either run or you can throw the ball away or you can take a check down, which he had 2 or 3 guys open on the first read attempt before he escapes the pocket, the receivers, 3 of them run to the left, flowing with the quarterback. He had Cole Kmet and he had another guy streaking across the field. Cole Kmet then adjusts his route a 3rd time. Moore comes back to the ball wide open. He could have just fired it there, even if it was a miss. We're like, okay, well, you scramble a little bit, you miss the throw. Moore, after Caleb Williams turns his back a 3rd time on the same play, Moore's like, all right, I'm done. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to go sprint all the way back across the field? I'm going to sub it out anyway. I'm gassed. I just ran 7 routes for you in one play. And comes all the way back and dirt balls it. It's just, and again, non-ball knowers will look at this and go, holy smokes, like this guy's escapability looks like Jaden Daniels. This isn't quarterback play. This is not. This is backyard football. That's not what they run in the NFL. What happened to quarterback efficiency? What happened to looking out for your offensive linemen who are busting their ass to protect you? There's pass coverage. You have 2.3 seconds to throw the football, not 17 seconds to run around and make a play. It's not touch. It's not flag football. It's just nonsense to me. I keep using the word nonsense this episode, but a massive regression from Caleb Williams over the last 2 weeks, and I don't understand it. And then later in the game, there's a clip of DJ Moore like shoulder checking Caleb Williams as the clock is running out. So he's in hell. DJ Moore is in hell in Chicago, and this is that repeat circus. They were 4-2. Now they're 4-4, and their schedule only gets worse, dangerously worse. Or they have to play their division opponents where they really haven't played yet. Minnesota's damn good. Detroit's amazing, and Green Bay is damn good. Good luck winning those games. I would say 6 losses. So you went from 4. You're going to go from 4-2 to getting another top 10 draft pick. Quarterback epidemic number 2 there. All right, and then the last little bit of here, and before we get to it's like 3 of my top predictions for this weekend of college football. I don't have a 2020 Vision quarterback of the week this week, but we got some decent college football games to predict this weekend. But before that, Dennis Allen was fired in New Orleans. And I've been preaching about this since the name of this podcast was The Rook and the Kid track. I'd been saying that this is one of the most atrocious head coaches in the NFL. And if you looked at just the way that he walks, you would have gone, okay, no, like, get out. This guy does not fit New Orleans one bit. And the quarterback play over there is also in question. That's for sure. Derek Carr continues to throw hospital balls. I believe he's going to get Chris Olave killed. I mean, T's and P's for Chris Olave. I believe this is like his 6th or 7th concussion in the NFL, all under Derek Carr's hospital ball throwing. And Colin Cowherd can call him a great thrower of the football, but in terms of inefficiency, I mean, damn, you went from 2-0 beating the shit out of the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas to losing 7 straight, and now you have the same record as the Panthers. That's unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. And that kind of leads me into why, like, Michael Thomas sounding off on Twitter, calling out Dennis Allen, calling out Derek Carr, doing all that sort of thing. He's frustrated with how that organization treated him. Again, Michael Thomas was the slant king. He really only ran 2 routes and was bitching about how you can get 180 targets and only eclipse 100 catches barely type thing. Like you had to have that many targets to get there for a specific player. I'm like, my dog, you were the exact same way. We had to give you 200 targets for you to get, 120. So, and that 120 catches got you like 7 yards per catch. So I had to go back there and do the stat check. But Michael Thomas is one of the most short-lived kings of fantasy football, not NFL, in the NFL. But he sounded off on the Saints and the organization and the head coach during this game. And then after the game, other players from the Saints organization started taking off to Twitter saying, "Damn, we lost to the Panthers. What are we doing? You have the same damn record as the Panthers. What are you talking about? You just lost to Bryce Young." And no disrespect for Bryce Young. I'm actually super happy. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, super happy for him. He game managed perfectly. He did what he was supposed to do. It didn't blow up on the stat sheet, but man, that gets a guy's confidence going up. And that's one of those kids that he's a good kid. He deserves it. And, Dave Canales, not so much. But, I just did. Another interesting fact here with Dennis Allen is he was fired with Derek Carr on his team in 2014. I may have the year wrong, but 2014, like 10 years ago, was fired as well. So it's like a guy that gets fired from another, organization, I don't think should get another chance necessarily to become a head coach at a different team. I could see another role maybe, he's quarterback coach. Oh, he's in charge of tight ends. He's in charge of analytics or whatever. Like Brian Flores, he had that whole thing for the Miami Dolphins, treating Tua, oh, poor Tua, like he was treated so poorly. Ooh. And then now he's coaching one of the best defenses in Minnesota, and you can't name a single player on that roster for the defense in Minnesota. So snooze, you lose. So quarterback play, like getting those second chances, getting fired from a different organization, and then coming in and taking over the New Orleans Saints. It's just the NFL is not the same without a, nose to the grindstone, hard-nosed, biting the kneecaps, Dan Campbell type coaching style in New Orleans. I mean, whatever happened to bring back the damn bounties for New Orleans? Start knocking some heads instead of knocking your own heads like Chris Olave, throwing him 20-mile-per-hour missiles over the middle and just hitting absolutely January 6th in the middle of the field. Seriously, though, I hope Chris Olave's okay. They would be fortunate to keep him on the team and hope that he's not contemplating retirement after the amount of dangerous hits that he's taken where he's knocked out cold. So, like, in all seriousness, you hope for the best for Chris Olave. All right, let's wrap this sucker up with a little bit of college football predictions. We're going to start with Georgia and Ole Miss. Now, Georgia and Ole Miss, 7-1 Georgia, number 2 ranked in the country versus number 16th ranked in the country, 7-2 Ole Miss. Now, this is going to be a fun one. And I say it's a fun one not because it's going to be a game that you're going to love to watch. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's like, oh, a high-caliber defense versus a high-caliber offense. Well, what stops a moving object, a movable object, an unmovable object? The Georgia's defense. They're going to stop the shit out of them on offense, in my opinion. And I will die on that cross saying that. I think Georgia wins this one by more than 14 points. The spread is currently 2.5 favoring Georgia. I think Georgia wins this one 38-17. Moving on to the next prediction of this one. Honestly, Alabama and LSU, this is going to be a very, very exciting one. Both sitting at 6-2, rank 11 Alabama versus rank 14 LSU. I believe this is in Baton Rouge. Let me do a double check of Rooskies here. In Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge, Alabama gets the dub. Alabama, Jalen Milroe has been struggling as of late. I think he really, after a bye week, gets it done in Tiger Stadium. Kalen DeBoer versus Brian Kelly. Again, I think Brian Kelly's team is soft. I really do. I talked about them. They snuck in to that top 12 rankings earlier only because the other teams just outside of it, I just think LSU would beat them in terms of talent, in terms of depth, in terms of size and strength of schedule. They're more battle tested than those other guys. That's really the only reason I put them in there. They will be out next week probably. I'm kind of looking at it more and more and just being like, why did I put them at 12? Why did I not just like Boise State at 12? So we'll redo that. We're going to put Boise State at 12. Shout out Boise State. Ashton Genty. Shenty. I think Alabama gets the dub here. I really think LSU playing at home or away, it's gonna make this game close being in Louisiana. So the spread, I said it, another 2.5 favorite to Alabama. The visitors, I think they cover that spread and they win 28-24 in Baton Rouge. And my final prediction for this one is going to be, let's do BYU and Utah. This is a more boring matchup, but BYU and Utah is going to be a closer game than people imagine. Utah actually has a little bit of talent on their team. BYU, this is honestly their toughest game for the remainder of the year. Actually, I'll go sit there and I'll go look real quick. Honestly, Kansas, Arizona State, that's going to be a tough one, actually. Arizona State's going to be a really tough one. And Houston. So, honestly, their remaining schedule is porous, but they do have to clutch up against Utah and Arizona State if I'm correct about who I say they are. So the spread favors BYU -4. I think BYU gets a very, very close W here. Upset alert potential for sure. Even though I completely dislike Cam Rising. I know he's probably not playing, but dude, seventh-year senior, whatever it is, hang up the damn cleats. I got BYU winning this one in a high-scoring affair, 38-35 on a comeback drive from BYU. All right, those are my 3 college football predictions heading into the weekend. We'll see how everything shakes out. I hope you enjoyed the 12th men segment as well as my Ain't Too Proud to Beg first 4 out sort of thing, and our Shatter the Script segment featuring the Dallas Cowboys, the QB Epidemic, Dennis Allen, and then finally wrapping up with my 3 college football predictions of the week. So this week we will have another Stats and Scores episode every Thursday at 7 a.m. This week will be with me and the Analyst once again. Medical guy just had a newborn, so he is spending time with family. Super happy for him. And then Friday, we're going to have a new guest. And actually, I believe it's a returning guest this week to play the Alabama LSU game. That'll be releasing College Football 25, 7 a.m. on Friday. So, and then, of course, next week, you'll get another edition of the main attraction, this show, the Shatter the Script podcast. You can follow us at Shatter the Script on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and X. Just search Shatter the Script, and you will see the angelic golden arches. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends, and I appreciate you supporting this hobby of mine. We will catch y'all next Tuesday. Oh, Shatter!